I now give the floor to the representative of Germany.
Thank you, Madam President. We welcome the initiative of the United States to streamline UN action on illicit trafficking and movement of persons and goods in areas where there is actual overlap. And we thank the Secretary General for his briefing. We agree that there is a need to discuss efficient structures to assist states in dealing with a multitude of illicit cross-border trafficking and movement of goods, funds, and individuals that can cause or reinforce threats to peace and security. In this regard, we would like to stress that the Council has already repeatedly addressed threats to international peace and security posed by cross-cutting issues such as drug trafficking, organized crime, and human trafficking. It is, in our view, important to bear in mind that open borders in themselves should not be seen as threats. Interconnectedness and free legal movement of goods and people is something to aspire to, not to condemn. However, this needs to be balanced with effectively fighting some very real threats posed by illicit transfers that can be exacerbated by poorly managed borders. We would therefore commend an assessment of UN capacities as an essential step in order to identify possible fields of overlap and room for improvement. We believe that the Secretary General would be well placed for undertaking such a task. Madam President, I would like to make some short observations. First, we should bear in mind that there is a limit to streamlining. Nuclear materials, weapons and dual-use goods, drugs, people crossing borders, each require different approaches and means of cooperation. We should also like to stress that streamlining should not lead to decreasing the efficient implementation of sanctions in any way. On the contrary, we see further improvements in the implementation of sanctions as an essential contribution to securing borders. Secondly, not all illicit trafficking and movement of goods, funds, and individuals necessarily constitutes threats to international peace and security. In many cases, they are adequately dealt with by national law enforcement authorities. However, illicit trafficking and movement can have an impact on national and international security when issues such as terrorism or arms proliferation are at stake. Organized crime, drug traffickers, and traffickers in human beings obviously also benefit from inadequately managed borders. The UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime therefore rightly addresses the improvement of border management structures. Thirdly, when combating illicit trafficking and movement of goods, funds, and individuals, states face a number of challenges. They result from the general aim to maintain free global trade on the one hand, as well as to respond to safety and security needs on the other. For example, long borders require high numbers of personnel and highly developed risk assessments. Border protection needs qualified and well-equipped personnel. It is in the nature of illicit trafficking and movement to seek to overcome existing border protection mechanisms. Therefore, a reliable and sustainable organization is needed, which, besides many other challenges, is resistant to corruption. Looking at UN efforts undertaken to help member states tackle those challenges, we would like to stress the importance of capacity building and institution building. These elements are key to enabling functional state institutions to adequately differentiate between the various goods and persons crossing their borders. Regarding capacity building, I would like to mention that Germany has supported a number of projects, such as providing technical aid in the framework of the Customs Data Project. Also, in peacekeeping operations, the reconstruction of border control capacities should be given particular attention where appropriate at an early stage. In this regard, it might be worthwhile exploring how UN police could assist in enhancing such capacities by providing support for the early reconstruction and capacity building of border protection entities. In this regard, Germany supports the African Union Border Program, which aims at the demarcation of borders, cross-border cooperation, and capacity development. But last not least, and fourthly, national border management efforts should be embedded in close international cooperation with neighboring states as well as regional and international organizations. In the case of the Schengen era in Europe, regarding the movement of persons and goods inside the single European market, there are generally no internal border controls. Border control, monitoring, and security is not primarily ensured by each sovereign member state individually, but through regional cooperation. The PRST that we are going to adopt today also rightly stresses the important role of regional organizations and underlines the need for regional strategies and UN support for regional cooperation. Madam President, Germany has for long been committed to a comprehensive approach to curb the illicit trade of small arms and light weapons, as well as to prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. For several years now, Germany has been a strong supporter of UNODC projects aiming at capacity building in the security sector. I would also like to mention our support for the UNODC Global Container Program, aimed at ensuring effective control of container cargo in some West African countries in order to suppress and prevent drug trafficking. Within the EU framework, we contribute to the EU Sahel strategy, which addresses both development and security issues and aims at strengthening regional cooperation. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Germany, and